Okay, we should be live. I'll give you a minute to
Awesome.
post the link.
The links are officially posted.
Okay,
Does that mean the students are going to start showing up to this the YouTube?
Hopefully,
yes, they should be able to see it in just a moment.
All right.
All right. Olivia, did you want to do some announcements first?
Yes, I just have a general announcement about discourse on the Discord chat, especially in the general and all things school chats. I've noticed that there has been a little bit of some advice that has been taken as what one size fits all advice in certain situations. And what I would suggest is that although this is a safe space for advice, everyone is entitled to use their own, whatever works for them. People have different backgrounds and situations, and people think differently. And what I would say is that please use I statements when giving advice, so that it's not something that you're telling someone to do. It's something that you're saying, like, oh, this works for me, not you should do this. Anyway, so that is what I would advise in terms of future discourse.
All right, thank you, Olivia. I hope this won't be a problem in the future. For now, we're going to go ahead and announce the top teams for this week, taking into account the puzzle sets or the current puzzle set and any other extra credit earned. In first place is Team Blastoff. And then tied for second, all four of these are Demon Annihilation Cohort, Tennis Noises, Untitled Hijinks featuring Sushi, and SEAL Team 69. So congratulations to those teams. We hope the rest of you will do your best and maybe get into the top 5 next week.
Yeah, very, very good job. Good job, folks.
All right, shall we go through all the puzzles? Let people know what the correct solutions were?
Probably. I think that's why we're all here.
All right. Does anyone take puzzle 1? The clocks?
You can have it.
All right. So this was the first puzzle in the set for a reason. It's very simple. If you write out the times, taking into account AM or PM, and then use the 1 through 26 A to Z basic substitution cipher, you get them to spell out the word adventure. All right, puzzle number 2 was the steganography. I know a lot of people had trouble with that one. Amos?
So puzzle number 2 is the one with the image of the tree. It's relatively basic steganography. All you need to do is just reverse image search the tree on Google, and paste that on top of the image we gave you. Select difference in your mode, so it just chooses the pixels that are separate between the two, and you'll see that there's a hidden image in the one that we gave you. You just, if you don't know what it is, you can just, Google what it is, whatever, take that name. It's the cipher for the line of characters above the link to the image, and that's that. It's relatively straightforward.
Okay. Puzzle number 3 included a riddle and an image of some wooden blocks saying nothing ventured, whatever the other half was. For that one, the riddle tells you to look at the letters that let the light shine through. So you look at the letters that have holes in them, such as O, D, etc. And those will give you the key. It's called an auto key cipher, which you can tell from the first line of the riddle. If you highlight the text, the word auto is hidden before the word key, and that deciphers to tell you the answer is fortitude.
Very sneaky.
I can do puzzle number 4. It's relatively simple. I mean, there's 2 real ways you do it. One is you can see that there's a fireplace in the background, that if you ask the ambient temperature in the room is above the freezing temperature of water, so 0 cups, and it would have melted. Or you could use the information that we gave you to try to figure out the volume of the ice sculpture and how to melt it. There's some tricky stuff with converting between units, but otherwise it's relatively straightforward either way you do it.
I think the math is the more fun way to solve that puzzle, but there's a very good solution the other way too.
And we did give you at least partial credit if you attempted the math, regardless of what your answer was, if the steps you took were correct. Some assumptions do have to be made, so there was some leeway in the answers. For the fifth one, you're not given a key, but the way to solve it was to shift every letter that there was on the keyboard up by one place on a standard QWERTY keyboard, and that gives you the answer. And the answer for that one was tumultuous. Professor Ling, would you like to go over the cryptic crosswords you gave at the end of your lecture?
Oh yeah, well, first of all, I hope everyone enjoyed that lecture. I know a lot of you were very excited to get solving on those. The first one, I don't have the things in front of me right now, but the answer was plead, which you could get by an anagram. Well, let me actually just find it real quick. Yep. How do I work this thing? Oh yeah, there we go. So a pedal adjustment, adjustment is a pretty solid anagram indicator, and that's, adjusting pedal and giving you plead, which is a request. For the second one, we had everything in broadcast is superficial, and if you took a show, which is a broadcast, and all for everything, and you put all in broadcast, you got shallow, and that's superficial. And lastly, this last one was pretty straightforward. You could consumes a portion of meat stew, and in fact, a portion of the words meat stew is the word eats, and that gives you your synonym for consumes. So those I think weren't all that tricky, but I can't say too much about this class, but I would expect to see more of those types of clues in your future. So keep your eyes open for those.
All right, if that's all of the puzzles we have to go over, we can go ahead and take some questions now, if anyone has them.
Okay, so it looks like there's a question about puzzle 1 and 2. Team Plague said that their team did what was explained, but still had a problem and would like to know what they did wrong. So that could be an individual thing, but that's just what's coming up in the chat right now.
All right, if you can explain what the problem is, then we can maybe go over that. Where were you stuck?
Okay, it looks like that's the only question that I've seen so far. Yeah, so it looks like there aren't any other questions.
All right, we'll give it a little bit of time in case they respond to that. I know there's a delay with the stream. In the meantime, do we want to talk a little bit about what to expect next week? I know that I'm giving a lecture on audio steganography on Wednesday, along with having office hours from 3 to 5 as usual.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm going to be getting into my area of expertise a little bit next week, doing some stuff with modern day encryption techniques. The words Diffie-Hellman might not be familiar to many of you, but it's a very cool concept of how, on the internet, computers, share information across. Yeah, it's a computer, and they talk to each other, talk in the computers. It's a little complicated than that, but I'm going to talk about it.
And next week, I'm going to be giving a lecture on maps and various ways you can hide them in images or hide information in maps themselves.
Okay, so I actually have a question right now. Someone is asking about the image from number 2 into the key for the cipher and how that exactly works.
What part of that? The image extracted, what part of the
looks like the second image.
Okay, so did they have, if you have the other image, then Amos, do you want to explain what you do with, if you have the original image that was used, then you can take.
Yes, so if they have the original, like, the terminology is a bit weird. If they have the original as in like, so like essentially the way you're supposed to do it is you reverse image search the image we gave you. You find the same image, or it doesn't have to be the exact same size. You can scale it up or down. It should be okay. And then you go into Photoshop or whatever bootleg Photoshop you have. You could also do this with like an online tool, but just like to do it manually, you would overlay the one we gave you with the one you found on Google, which hasn't been messed with. And if you select difference as a mode, your computer will basically delete all the stuff that's the same between the two images. And the first image, the opacity isn't low, but it's easiest to describe it as having a low opacity. Essentially, the hidden image was flattened onto that image, and it's really faint. But if you delete all the same pixels between the image we gave you and the one you find on Google, all that will be left is those faint pixels, and then you can just increase the contrast and the brightness and everything to make that image more clear. If you don't know what that is just because you don't get the reference, you can then put that into Google and look it up and see what it is. But essentially, that's how you get the hidden image, at least in this type of image steganography. And then all you do is the cipher key in this instance was just the name of what that was. You take that, you put it into the cipher. It's a Vernam cipher, so you put it in like that, and you just run it through. You need to find the decoder which is keyed for symbols, not just letters, and that should be it. Some teams were running into trouble where traditionally Vernam uses a one-time pad encryption, so the key is just as long as what is encrypted. You don't have to do that, and we didn't do it in this instance. So like just going forward, don't always assume that, if it's some sort of one-time pad encryption, that it's as long as what is encrypted. But essentially that's all it is to it. You unencrypt the ciphertext to plain text, and you're basically done at that point.
Let me just jump in here and say that for people who are a little concerned about maybe not getting a problem on this first problem set, when I was in grad school at Princeton, I would get a problem set. It would be assigned at the end of the class, and the professor would say, "Well, here's these 10 problems," and I would solve like 3 of them, and I would bring them and say, "Professor, I only solved like 3 of these problems on this problem set." And he would say, "Yes, you're doing a great job because they're hard problems. This is not a graduate level class, but this is hard stuff that we're doing here. So if you played around with it and got your hands dirty on these problems, and maybe you didn't get all the way to the solution, you should still feel very good about yourself for having gotten that far, because in life you're not always going to get all the answers, and it is important that you just try your best. And that's my Ben Lang patented advice for academic success right there. Is you just try it and try it again. And if you don't get it, it's fine. Sometimes you got to get it, but you don't always got to get it. That's
Thank you, Ben. There's another question. If we have timestamp proof that we were working in the right direction for a problem but didn't turn it in, can we submit for partial credit?
If you didn't turn in anything on the problem set on the puzzle set at all, then you can still turn it in now for partial credit. It would require timestamp proof now that we've gone over most of the problems, but you can get partial credit. If you did turn in something for the puzzle set, you cannot turn in more now and get a higher grade.
Yeah, just to be clear on policies for in general with the puzzle sets, if you have work that you might not solve a puzzle all the way, but you still have the work, you can turn in that work for partial credit.
Also, we were getting some questions yesterday about people who worried that they'd submitted it on time or registered us late or whatever. We were relatively lenient with the deadline the first time around. So like if it was 5, 10, 15 minutes late, we didn't penalize you or anything for that, in case people were wondering.
wonderful.
Did someone have a question about the first problem? I believe I saw someone complaining about the clocks. Yeah, so you take, for this one, you take, for example, the first clock on the top left, which is 1:04, and the 1 corresponds to an A, the 4 corresponds to a D. The second clock is 10:05 p.m., so that correlates to 22:05, and which is VE. So from there, you have ADVE. You can continue like that. For one of the clocks, you do need to, it's an analog clock, but you do need to change it to PM in order for it to work. But aside from that, it's fairly straightforward. It just goes left to right, top to bottom.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Rhodes. A wonderful breakdown of that. It's a problem. I think a lot of these things too is people are expecting, because this is a very hard course, that the problems are all going to be, exceptionally hard. But it's not always that hard. Sometimes it's if you're working on it and it seems too hard, you might be doing something wrong, and that's something to keep in mind for future problem sets as well. It's very important.
Do we have any more questions, or?
Looks like people are actually answering some of the questions that are coming up in the chat, which is helpful. But there was this question: how can you find a decoder with the extra non-alphabetical characters? I spent a long time looking for such a site or program, but no luck.
Yes, I think a strategy for that one would be simply to just search random cipher. I'm not sure if you can specify alphabetic or non-alphabetic characters in that, but trying a few different things to see what works is a good strategy for more complicated ciphers, especially such as Venom. For something like a Caesar shift cipher, doesn't matter which one you use, as long as it's coded well.
Okay, so another question is, if you turn partial answers in before the Thursday deadline, but then figure something out on Friday, are you still allowed to submit more on Friday before the review lecture to get partial credit?
I think that might be decided. If you solve another puzzle completely, you might be able to contact us and see about that. I think in general, we
also
will get
need
less.
grade. So the
Yeah.
grade, all the stuff, so keep that in mind.
Exactly, yes.
Then Taylor asks, what was the extra credit in Bronstein's lecture?
So what's a good way to say this without giving it away? If you look at the various types of steganography, there's a list. If you pay attention closely to the list, it should tell you two things. One of which is, or was, I suppose, the correct way or the type of image steganography that the tree puzzle was. And the other one was the extra credit. So I would say go back and look again and see if that makes sense. I'm not sure if we have a deadline for extra credit type stuff. We probably have to talk about that amongst ourselves because we haven't run into the issue yet. But I would say go back and look and see to see if you can find it.
Okay, so that's all I'm seeing for questions.
Okay, then are we good?
Let me just check the Discord to see if there are questions on the Discord.
Are we good here? Because I'm trying to go watch Jeopardy after this. So
I think
is
I
that-
think it seems like we're good.
Yeah.
all right. Well, good luck on next week's problem set, everybody. Make sure you're keeping up with all the class components, and good luck and best of Godspeed to all you merry folks. And that's all good for me. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you.
Bye bye.
Good luck with next week's puzzle set. It will be out on Monday at 9 a.m.
Have a good one, everybody.